What's going on YouTube? This is Tyler here, back with another SHORTSLABS video, and today I'm going to be doing a different type of video than what I normally do. I actually want to break down why the baseball card market collapsed in the 80s and early 90s, and also really do an analysis on whether or not the recent production numbers with sports cards are making it look very, very similar to the 80s sports card market. So, everybody knows that baseball cards were such a huge thing way back in the 1980s. The 80s era was an amazing time for collectors. It was viewed upon widely as the golden years of sports cards. There were local hobby shops in every hometown where you could go buy, sell, trade with other fellow collectors. Sports card shows were becoming a big thing. We didn't just have Topps baseball cards, which is essentially what we had in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, or early 80s, but now we were starting to see other brands come in. Not so much in basketball, but with all of the other sports, we started to see Fleer. We started to see the continuation of the other Topps lineups, such as Bowman. And then in the late 80s, we also saw the dawning of Upper Deck. However, all of this great energy coming into the market was really countered by one massive flaw, and that was overproduction. Overproduction is what killed the sports card market. We saw not only hundreds of thousands of cards being produced, but we saw millions of cards being produced. And to be quite honest, they may still be making those cards today. There are just so many cards out there from every single release, whether it be baseball, basketball, football, etc. And that is essentially what killed the market. At least it started the decline right in the beginning of the early 90s. But then once the dawn of the internet age came about and we started to see eBay, message boards, and everyone really found out that the economy for sports cards was much, much larger than their local hometown, and that supply was nearly infinite. That really brought a crash to the entire sports card market for that era. And specifically, whenever I'm talking about that era, that's really focusing on cards made really between 1985 up to around 1993, 1994. That was really considered the overproduction, the oversaturation era. And if you watch YouTube videos from a lot of other different folks who speak to this, and some of the new gurus out there, they'll probably tell you that this is the era of oversaturation. Now, what that doesn't mean is that every card from that era is completely worthless. And I actually have some data here, and I want to go through some of the cards that really state why grading saved baseball cards from this era. But then I also want to counter that and compare that to what we're seeing from today's era, and really be a caution signal to all of you all who may be caught up in what could be an amazing rejuvenation of cardboard hype and investments and flipping and all the great things that we're all experiencing today from a market appreciation standpoint. But before you go take a deep dive into spending your entire 401k into this, want to make sure that everybody is very forewarned on what could potentially happen if you put your money in the wrong type of investment. So if we look at some of those blue chip cards that were super, super popular back in the 80s and really are still popular to this day, looking at this Mark McGwire 84 rookie card, or 1985 rookie card, sorry. So what I have pulled up here is PSA's tool that they utilize. So there's a pop report tool and then an auction prices tool. And this is a really, really cool tool. It may be free, but I know if you're a subscriber, this is a tool that you can utilize. What it will do is it will show you auction results through eBay, and really the market value of all of those sales across every single grade, as well as more granular statistics here about the individual grade, as well as the population report, which is extremely key. And then down here, there's also the stratification tool based on grade that really shows how cards are valued and what they're really selling for, whether it be the average price or the most recent sale price. So I have here Mark McGwire's rookie card pulled up, and you can see one of the great things that grading did is it saved the sports card market, because not only now did we have 120,000 Topps cards graded by PSA, Well, what really became more important was the condition of those cards. And you can really see that based on the price stratification here and also the population report. So Gem Mint 10 copies for this card are extremely rare. There's only 304 of those. And the price difference between a Mint 9 and a Gem Mint 10 card is just astronomically different. I mean, we're talking about almost a 30x difference between a PSA 9 and a PSA 10. And that's because if we look at the population report for this card, and we type in Mark McGuire, so there's 45,000 of these cards graded, and only 304 have been graded Gem Mint, and only really 6,000 have been graded Mint. So that really explains the price difference. So if we exit out of these and go through a couple of other cards, we look at Jose Canseco's rookie from Donruss, which is really one of his more popular rookie cards. Again, a population report of 643. And again, if we open this up, there's been 22,000 cards graded from this set. Again, a junk era set. There's only 22,000 cards graded. We can look at the price difference here in terms of differences in 9s and 10s. But the Jose Canseco card, really, again, only roughly 7,000 graded and 643 graded Gem Mint. So almost a 10% gem rate for that card. If we go on to another very popular card, Barry Bonds' rookie, so a lot more Gem Mint cards, but this is one of his more popular rookie cards, as well as his Tiffany rookie. You can see there's a lot of these cards graded from the set, 65,000, again from a junk era set. We type in Barry Bonds, so again, almost a 10% gem rate of all the cards submitted. So again, that explains the massive difference, the almost 10x difference between a Mint 9 and a Mint 10 copy. So now going on to King Griffey Jr. in 1989. So his Fleer rookie card, again, a lot of these cards graded, roughly 80,000. Again, this is a junk era set. I keep reiterating that. And sorry, that was a very loud 18-wheeler that drove by, so I apologize for that. 77,000 cards graded for the entire set. Again, millions and millions of copies graded or produced. 46,000 total, and there goes another 18-wheeler, so they must be buddies. Again, almost a 10% gem rate for these cards. Now, obviously, that's not his most popular rookie. His most popular rookie, which you can tell by this market cap here, this is not the market cap for the entire population report, but it is the approximate value that I like to use that really is a surrogate indicator to tell who is really hot over a consistent time period. Almost $1.5 million have been spent on this card over the time period, and I don't really know what that time period is. I don't know if it's a month, if it's a couple weeks, half a year. I honestly don't know. But for Upper Deck, roughly 143,000 cards graded. You can see 75,000 graded King Griffey Jr. rookie cards, and only 3,800 have received a Gem Mint 10 assignment. And that certainly explains the reason why this is a $1,500 card, which in my opinion, just given that there's 3,800 of these, this really is a very, very cheap price for a card that comes from the junk era. And last but not least, going on to perhaps a little bit lesser known of a player, or at least lesser known, exiting the 80s, going into the 90s, and 1990, 1991, 1992 really wasn't that popular of a collecting series. Chipper Jones's Upper Deck rookie, there's a population that's actually really low compared to today's standards. We're talking about a card that has been graded roughly 2,000, that has roughly 2,000 Gem Mint copies out of 7,784 that have been graded. So why do I bring this up? I bring this up to say that looking at the 80s cards, really the only thing that saved them was grading. Grading eliminated this oversaturation variable and really introduced a very limited variable. People didn't just want a King Griffey Jr. rookie card. They wanted a Gem Mint rookie card because Gem Mint was much better than near mint, but much better than mint. They wanted the best of the best because that is really what stood out. We didn't want a King Griffey Jr. card made for every man, woman, and child. we wanted a King Griffey Jr. that was very nice and clean and aesthetically pleasing. So fast forward a little bit to some of the blue chip cards that we have now in the modern era. So I contrast the 80s with the 90s, early 2000s, and late 2000s. And then I also transition that into the third period that I will talk about, which is really a period that I would like to call oversaturation part 2, which in my opinion started in 2018. So if we look at some blue chip cards that are super popular among collectors, investors, everything today, Kobe Bryant's rookie card, 1996 Topps Chrome. This was a retail-only release, only available in retail outlets like Walmart, etc. I remember buying 2 packs of these with my dad whenever I was younger, and he pulled this exact card. Not the Gem Mint card, but he pulled a Topps Chrome rookie. So if you look at this population report, this card has been out for now almost 23 years. There's only 829 of these in the population report. Out of really not that many that have been graded. So, and this also takes into consideration cracks and resubs. A lot of people playing the resub game, going back and forth between Beckett and PSA. So roughly 5,000 of these have been graded. Only 829 have been graded Gem Mint. This card with a Gem Mint population of 829 is a $10,000 card. So very, very impressive. If we go to LeBron James' Topps Chrome rookie card, a card that has seen wide fluctuations in price recently. This card had a ton of cards. There was a lot of these produced compared to the Kobe Bryant card. And you can see the market cap here. $4.2 million have been spent on this card over the same time period as every other card here. Compare that to the Kobe card, $1.6 million. There's been 2,009 of these graded Gem Mint out of a lot that have been submitted. And I'll pull up the population report data here once it loads. But this card has been very, very popular today. It's gone up to as high as $17,000 recently. But again, 2,000 graded PSA 10 out of 5,000 graded. So keep note of the number total graded and also the number of PSA 10s. So if we go on to something a little bit more rare, which may be the actual modern day Mickey Mantle card today, Mike Trout's Bowman Chrome Draft autograph rookie. This is a card that has roughly 2,000 total produced, so obviously the population report numbers are going to be relatively low. You can see roughly the total number graded here, so I mean we're talking less than 150, 200 of these graded by PSA. And the price of this is around $15,000. So very, very expensive. And it's been a card that has steadily risen in price, irregardless of really what Mike Trout does on the field. If we fast forward to the Prism era, so this is the very first production run for Panini Prism, and this is, in my opinion, the best investment card from Panini Prism, as it is Kawhi Leonard's rookie card, his most sought-after rookie card. This really starts to these couple of years from 2009 going from up to 2012 and even 2013 and 2014 to an extent are really very limited because the economy at the time started bottoming out in fall of 2007, really bottomed out in 2008, and it continued to go down, at least even from a housing standpoint, all the way down to 2010, 2011, which was really the bottom from a housing market perspective. So sports cards were relatively limited. And again, limited is what drives collectability over time. At the time, these cards were not very sought after. This Kawhi Leonard card was certainly not this expensive. It was relatively cheap, very inexpensive. You could probably have gotten this Kawhi Leonard rookie card for less than $10 raw back in the day. I remember buying a couple of these in the $20 to $30 range, but not in mass quantity. So now with the recent hobby explosion, there's been a lot of these that have been graded, but we're starting to see a little bit of a leveling off in terms of total number graded. And even with the explosion of Prism, we still only have roughly 12,000 cards from this set graded in total. And if we look at the Kawhi Leonard card, we're looking at roughly 1,600 cards graded, only 936 Gem Mint grade assignments. So very, very limited. And I want to reiterate that. Very, very limited, as this was an era that was started out really due to limited availability and limited quantity. So going on to, gosh, if this isn't the 52 Mantle, I don't know what the next best thing is. Like, this is I don't know, another version of the Mickey Mantle 52 card. This is a card that everybody wants in their collection. It is the most sought-after Topps flagship card of the modern era, if perhaps ever. Look at the amount of money that's been spent on this card, almost $3 million over this time period. The population report does continue to grow. I remember I looked at this a couple of months ago, and it was around the upper 3,000 range to 4,000s maybe, and now we've crossed the 5,000 mark, which to me really is mind-boggling. There were a lot of these cards produced, but the population report does continue to go up, as does the price. So this is one of those that, in my opinion, is kind of really an outlier for the era. It's almost as if every single card that is gem mint worthy has just about been picked over for this card to be graded. Roughly 22,000 total cards graded from the set. If we look at the Mike Trout card, almost 8,000 graded, 5,000 gem mint. So you can see the gem mint numbers really shifting over time. If we looked at the Lebron James card, roughly a 40% gem rate. This card is approaching really a 60 to 61% gem rate for the Mike Trout rookie. Now if we look at Mookie Betts, so this is a card that is really starting to pick up steam lately, and it's really been popular for graders over time, but it definitely highlights the difference in 2011 and 2014, but something that we will continue to likely see over time as this population report grows. But again, 2,500 of these graded PSA 10, 11,000 total cards graded out of Topps update, which is roughly half of 2011 update. This isn't due to the differences in production, but it's just a variance in the set. Obviously, 2011 Topps update is more collectible as it has Mike Trout's rookie card, but we see the gem mint numbers changing a little bit here, so this is closer to a 70% gem rate, or really a little bit higher than that. It's over 70% gem rate for Mookie Betts. And then if we start going into the modern era, you can see our population of gem mint 10 numbers are increasing. However, we aren't that far removed. This is only 2017, guys. So looking at Kobe's rookies, LeBron's rookies, Mike Trout's rookies, Mookie's rookies. I mean, these cards have been out for a while, and these have been MVP caliber. And Mookie Betts' case, he's a world champion. LeBron and Kobe are obviously the GOATs of their game. So really, now we're looking at Aaron Judge, who had one really massive summer of success where he dominated the hobby. But still, we're looking at a card 3 years removed, and 3,700 have been graded, roughly 2,800 have been graded PSA 10. So you can see the production numbers are increasing as more people are submitting these cards through less time. However, the thing that I really want to caution everybody for is 2018. So in 2018, the market for sports cards exploded, or started to really do a massive uptick, and that really came about also in 2019, and in 2020 we've taken it to new levels. The number of cards graded by PSA, Beckett, and even SGC over the past couple of months and really all of 2020 and the end of 2019 is just unbelievable. People are sending in anything and everything, and I think what this is now highlighting, at least with this data, we can see the massive demand for this card. There's almost $2.5 million spent on this Luka Doncic card across a variety of different grades. But take a look at our population numbers for 2018 Prism. So remember, I just went through the junk era very recently, and it showed that even Upper Deck, 1989 Upper Deck, had 140,000 cards graded. We're talking about a set that's been around for 30 years, and it has perhaps the most iconic rookie card of the entire 90s and 2000s in it, in the King Griffey Jr. rookie card, which is really the most important rookie card of the 90s and perhaps saved the hobby from its sure catastrophic downfall. So I'm still waiting because apparently we can't even load the entire population report for this card. 124,000 cards graded. Now, if we go back to this card, we don't necessarily have to wait for it. We can just really skim through here and look. We have over 20,000 cards graded by PSA, really over 21,000. Yeah, here we go. So here's the pop report I guess we can look at down here. So 21,487 cards have been graded, which is just insane. We're talking about 76,000 gem mints out of 123,000. This is what I'm really, really worrying about, because people are now spending on average over $1,000 for this card. This card jumped up to almost $2,000. It's now down to around $1,200, which is a price that it's probably a good settling point for it. But it's not alone. We're talking about a card that has 13,000 gem mint copies. 13,000. If we look at Juan Soto's 2018 update rookie, so we're talking about a card again, 13,000 gem mint copies. Topps Update has 70,000 cards graded from this set. I mean, this is on par with 1986 Topps Traded. This is on par with 1989 Fleer. This is exceeding 86 Donruss. Now, obviously, this is a lot more popular of a set, as this has Juan Soto and Ronald Acuna Jr. in it, which is far greater than Jose Canseco. But the Bash Brothers were a thing back then. Obviously, grading wasn't as big back then, but there's literally 2 to 3 million of these cards laying around. Many of them didn't survive, over the past 30 years. But to me, this is just remarkable. We have 18,000 of these cards that have been submitted to PSA, not even including Beckett, and 13,056 are graded gem mint. We look at the Acuna Jr., it's a little bit worse. We're almost approaching, and I would say by, the end of the month, this will be a pop 15,000 card. Pop 15,000. Now, there's also a reason why, if we look at Mike Trout's update rookie, this is a pop 5,000 card. This is still relatively limited for the modern era. This card is a 4-figure card easy, and it wouldn't surprise me if this card continues to go up in value, and it's been a steady riser, over time. You can see that its most recent sales have outpaced the averages, and that's very consistent with what Mike Trout has done throughout his entire career. But if you look at these guys, I mean, this has such high variability whenever it comes to prices. Very small, minute swings in demand can have massive changes on sale value and price, as well as the quantity available. So we're talking about this card that preseason was around a $300 card. Ronald Acuna Jr. is in a hot spell right now, so it's starting to pick up a little bit, but we've already lost a third of its value just in a couple short months, which to me is just really mind-boggling. I mean, Juan Soto, this card was a $300 card a couple of weeks ago. Now it's trending around $222, really because he sat out a couple games. That's it. He sat out a couple games. He was the hottest guy in baseball. He sits out a couple games. Now he loses some value. And you can also see the market cap for these cards. I didn't mean to exit out of that. Not a lot of money's been being spent on these compared to some of these other blue chips, especially you look at this compared to the basketball market. Obviously, Mike Trout is an outlier here, almost $3 million spent on that card. But basketball really, really, really far exceeds baseball by a wide margin. So that's not the last examples that I have for you guys. I also want to show 2019 Top Series 2 Fernando Tatis, and this is a population report that has really exploded. Again, 2019, we already have 8,200 of these graded PSA 10, 12,000 submitted to PSA. He does appear to be the hobby darling, but again, I'm very worried and very concerned about what this spells for in terms of market dynamics moving forward. I certainly don't see 4 figures coming out of these cards because, again, if you look at the blue chip cards previously, these cards did not have population reports approaching 10,000 or higher. I think 5,000 is a sweet spot. Anything more than that, I think that price appreciation is very, very limited because of the oversupply of these cards out there. So again, I don't know what the ceiling is for this card, but we're approaching territory that is very, very scary for me. And I'll go through the last couple of examples before I give my final takes. Zion Williamson, $1.3 million spent on this card, a lot of sales, and it's lost a lot of value really because of very small swings in demand. This card was a card that was trading consistently above $1,000, but we have a population report, again, a 2019 card. This card came out last November. There have been 11,000 graded PSA 10 by PSA. And, well, obviously by PSA, right? So if we look at this card has been out less than 12 months, and there are 124,000 Panini Prism cards graded by PSA. Compare that to all the junk era sets that are existing in the 80s. This far exceeds them, which to me is extremely, extremely scary as a consumer, and I'm not going to wait for that to load because that's just scary. If we look at the total number of cards graded by PSA, and I think that we've frozen up a little bit here because of trying to load some pop reports. So we'll skip through and see if this will load up. But there's been almost 30,000 of these cards graded. Well, over 20,000, sorry. 20,000 graded by PSA, which is just really astronomical. And then for some reason, I have Chipper Jones's card here at the very end. So why do I bring this up, and why am I discussing this for everyone? There's a couple of takeaways that I want to really hit home. First, I think that cards 2018 and moving forward are really approaching a modern junk era. And it's a modern junk era that cannot be saved by grading, because what we're seeing right now is very unprecedented, and that previously in the 80s, grading saved the 80s sports card market because there really weren't that many gem mint cards. Grading wasn't that popular. Sure, there were 2 million cards produced from every single card, but not many of them were grade worthy because printing technology, cutting technology, care for the cards just wasn't as great as it is today. Unfortunately, now what we're seeing is very, very different from what we saw in 2009, definitely what we saw from 2003 and also 1996, and that there are more cards being made today than there ever has been in the past 20 to 25 years. To me, that is very, very scary. Now, having said that, there's a couple of things that you can do to hedge yourself from and protect yourself and where you're putting your money. For me, I would not be buying this card. I would not be buying this card. And I would not be buying any of these cards for the long haul. For a short flip, yes. If you all have watched my videos, you've all likely seen that I've bought every single one of these cards. I've sent them all to PSA just like everybody else in the world is doing. And I'm getting them graded and I'm selling them. And I'm doing that rinse and repeat until it becomes really not profitable to do anymore. However, am I adding these to my collection? Am I adding these to my personal collection? The answer to that is emphatically no. And I'm going to do a video as a follow-up to this that really explains why that is, and goes into it a little bit more in depth and really highlights a recent blowout forum post that I made that breaks it down perhaps a little bit better than I can do right here. But I'm not buying these cards because there are just simply too many of them. And I'm afraid that we are reaching a saturation point from a PSA 10 perspective where it just isn't worth it to buy base cards. So my recommendations on what you should do are don't buy the mass-produced base cards. Now, just because cards are being overproduced, that doesn't necessarily mean that every card is overproduced, because there are a ton of value sets out there that have low production numbers, low population reports, that are also much more prone to price appreciation over time once the masses realize that these cards are essentially overpriced. Now, many of you are going to talk about, well, you can't talk about supply without demand, and you are 100% true. And right now, demand is at an all-time high. The follow-up video that I'm going to be talking about later is why you shouldn't be worrying about demand today. It's why you should be worrying about demand tomorrow. And I'm going to leave it at that, but keep an eye out for my next video, which will do a follow-up for this, and I'm really excited to talk about it because I think it's going to highlight a lot of really interesting points that maybe a lot of collectors are missing right now because everyone is so caught up in this price appreciation that we've experienced over the past 6 to 12 months. So keep an eye out for this video. Hopefully this is a little bit enlightening. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. Again, I hope I didn't offend anybody. I think a lot of people were probably upset from my last video that really complained about PSA grades, which is a story in itself. Let me know what your all's thoughts are. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know what your thoughts are down below. And as always, thank you for stopping by. If this is your first time, please drop a like, drop a comment, and as always, subscribe. I really want to push this channel to 5,000 subs and if possible, 10,000 subs. I'm going to get a little bit more content going out. I've been consistent, at least posting 1 to 2 videos a week, really averaging around 8 to 10 videos a month. My hope is that I can continue doing that, if not doing it a little bit more, but obviously the more subs, the more wider audience, the more ideas that you all have from a video perspective, the better. So I also have a video coming out in addition to the follow-up to this. I have a couple more mail day videos that are coming out in addition to the hot list for September. So stay tuned for that. Those will all be posted within the next week or so. But as always, keep collecting, and we'll see you next time.